Thanks for joining us. The gloves are off as the federal government announces its response to U.S. tariffs that took effect on Saturday. After trade talks broke down last Friday, the U.S. imposed new 50% tariffs on nearly $28 billion worth of Canadian goods. On Tuesday, Federal Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne announced Canada will respond dollar for dollar, rate for rate.
Effective September 8, Canada will impose counter-tariffs of up to 15, 25, or 50% on $27.6 billion in imports from the United States of America. For each product, our tariff would match the American tariff on the same type of Canadian good. Our existing counter-tariffs, including those on automobiles, will remain in place. Canada's remission framework will also remain available to mitigate unintended consequences for Canadian businesses. Canada's counter-tariffs are designed primarily to provide protection for Canadian industry impacted by U.S. tariffs and allow them to compete against U.S. products in the Canadian market. It's all about fairness, it's all about level playing field, it's all about supporting Canadian workers and Canadian businesses.
Breaking down the numbers a bit, the government is slapping a 50% tariff on American clothing and apparel and levy a 25% tariff on appliances, dairy products, seafood, and certain steel and aluminum derivatives products. The government also announced a $7.5 billion aid package that includes new loan programs for businesses and more flexibility in employment assurance. One of the latest social media tirades, U.S. President Donald Trump posted a map of Lake Ontario with the name crossed out and replaced with Lake America. Trump hinted the U.S. does not expect to continue doing business with Ontario much longer. Trump and Ontario Premier Doug Ford exchanged insults yesterday, but Ford has since dialed down his rhetoric. And as trade tensions heat up, a number of local businesses in our region are expressing concerns. Alberta is reportedly suffering minimal effects from the U.S. tariffs in comparison to other major provinces, but it does not rule out major impacts to specific industries here in Lethbridge. BCN's Landon Hickok has more.
The retaliatory tariffs announced by the federal government on Tuesday are expected to leave an immediate impact to Canadian businesses when they come into effect on September the 8th. The Lethbridge Chamber of Commerce is responding to these developments and calling for a coordinated trade response, claiming that persistent uncertainty will be felt by everyone across the country.
Last spring, we put out a policy on, we need to take care of everything within our own country because we have no control over what's happening in Washington, but we do have control over what is happening in our own country. One thing that we continue to work on is how can we best partner with everybody around us? How do we partner with BC? How do we partner with Saskatchewan? Transportation is still one of those key issues. The federal government has done a lot of work on interprovincial trade in the last year, but there's still a lot we can do.
And local businesses, in the meantime, are adapting accordingly. The president at Charlton and Hill Home Services in Lethbridge says they have been acquiring more Canadian-made products ever since the very first wave of U.S. tariffs.
Everything that we source is made in the United States or is assembled in the United States, and so we buy those assembled products, and that's where we're looking for where else we can get those from. What we expect from what we're hearing right now in the national news is indirect impact. So some of our products will go up. We don't know exactly which ones. We don't know exactly where. And so we continue to try and focus our efforts on sourcing as much as we can from Canada.
The company provides plumbing, heating and cooling, and electrical services for residential properties. It's apparent for them that customer sentiment during these times has substantially decreased, although they provide an essential service.
You're seeing a lot of people making the cheapest decision they can. We're accustomed in our marketplace for customers to say, no, let's take care of it. Let's fix it properly. Let's replace equipment. Let's do upgrades. Let's do all those things. That kind of discretionary spending has dropped off significantly.
Other companies are more susceptible to large increases in tariffs. Southland Trailers and Parts tells BCN in a statement the latest announcements are detrimental to their organization and manufacturing overall in southern Alberta. these tariffs will limit our ability to grow, invest in new equipment and technology, expand our operations, and create additional jobs. Although Alberta may not feel the same adverse effects as other major provinces reportedly will, many are not without exemption in industries that Alberta contributes the most.
When you think about agriculture and you think about the farmers, they need parts that require steel or various things that may be inputs that are from the U.S. So that it might not seem like it would be agriculture would be affected, but in those ways, that supply chain, definitely there's an effect.
For Bridge City News, I'm Landon Hickok.
Thanks, Landon. In other news, RCMP in the northern Alberta community of Manning have arrested a 16-year-old student after receiving reports of a potential school shooting when kids return to class next week. About a week ago, Mounties received reports that a Manning student had threatened to shoot students when they returned to class on September 1st. An investigation led to the identification of a suspect. On Tuesday, RCMP executed a search warrant at a local residence and seized 7 firearms. Police say the 16-year-old suspect will be charged with uttering threats pending Crown approval. The superintendent of the Peace River School Division thanked the RCMP for its quick response and says the safety and well-being of students and staff will always remain an unwavering priority for the school division. What do stuffed animals and missing children have in common? Well, a lot, actually. A large donation of stuffies was made in Calgary Tuesday to honor 11-year-old Parker Wells, who went missing and was found deceased last month. And while the donation is in his memory, a petition aimed at preventing similar incidents is gaining traction. BCN's Naveen Day has more.
Walking through the park, there are so many distractions here that make it very easy to get separated from your family and friends. And this is especially the case if you have dementia or autism. You could easily get drawn into the lake over here. And that's why a Calgary mother and a member of Parliament have teamed up and started a petition that's made its way to the House of Commons.
Calgary mother Jennifer Ball started a campaign to make changes to Canada's emergency alert system after the July disappearance of 11-year-old Parker Wells in Calgary. This came almost a year after the disappearance of 6-year-old Darius McDougall in Crowsnest Pass. Days later, Parker was found deceased in a water pipe running under Deerfoot Trail. Darius is still missing, both boys autistic. Ball's petition for indigo alerts on change.org received over 40,000 signatures. The enhanced alert system would send out immediate alerts for vulnerable people. She has teamed up with Conservative MP Mike Lake to petition the federal government for shared national standards for a vulnerable missing persons alert framework across the country.
We wanted to really ensure that we had everything locked down, talk to the right people. And so there was a lot of big names that had to come into play for us to get this petition rolling.
Conservative MP Mike Lake says his 30-year-old autistic son is prone to wandering and could disappear without any notice.
It's a flashback, I think, for any parent of a particular person with autism in a sort of particular range on the autism spectrum. So my son is also non-speaking and very prone to wandering, to exploring, and not noticing when he might be away from people.
Ball has collected over 1,000 stuffed animals from Parker's Vigil to be donated to various charities around Calgary. Tuesday afternoon, the largest donation of over 200 stuffies was donated to the Calgary Food Bank.
And I think it's an incredible way. All of these stuffed animals were donated in honor of Parker, and I think that it's a beautiful thing. They've all been dry cleaned by Tower dry cleaners, and these stuffed animals now can go back to families.
Petition E7703 will remain open for signatures until December 22nd. As of Tuesday afternoon, it has received close to 3,000 signatures. For Bridge City News, I'm Naveen Day.
Thank you, Naveen. A food bank located in the town of Raymond, south of Lethbridge, has been ordered to close by Alberta Health Services after an inspection revealed conditions that may be, quote, injurious or dangerous to public health. The Southern Community Food Security Society is described as a mobile charity operation that donates food to people in communities experiencing food insecurity. In a letter addressed to the society back on August 14th, AHS addressed multiple key issues that resulted in its closure. Among them, eggs were left without refrigeration, toddler formula was expired, mouse droppings were found in the food area, and the general space was left disorganized and impeded access to sinks. In a statement on Facebook, the Southern Community Food Security, which also ran a thrift store, announced they will be officially closing their doors and will no longer be taking in donations. They cited a continued lack of support from the municipal government in Raymond as a major reason for the shutdown. A major pathway upgrade is coming to one of Lethbridge's most popular cultural attractions. The project at Nikko-Yuko Japanese Garden is aimed at improving accessibility, drainage, and the overall visitor experience, with construction set to begin after the garden's regular season ends. The city of Lethbridge, which owns the garden, is funding the work. Our BCN's Heidi Echeverria has the details.
What may look like minor damage is going to be part of a larger project at Nikko-Yuko Japanese Garden. We can see in the garden many cracks like this one, and all of them are going to be repaired. And also, the bridge access is going to be upgraded to improve accessibility, especially for wheelchair users.
This pathway, it's more than just for people to walk on. It's a vital important part of the guest experience when they come to the garden. It's what contributes to people being able to experience the garden as it was intentionally designed, to help tell that story of the Japanese Canadians, the post-war resilience, the multicultural nation building, and the story of cultural diplomacy between Canada and Japan.
Construction begins on August 31st, and a city official says the $679,000 investment is part of the city's 2022 to 2031 capital improvement program.
So yeah, we've been planning this project. It was originally scoped and planned to be completed in 2023. In conjunction with the society, we thought that it would be better to finish the Japanese Garden Master Plan, which was completed in 2024, prior to moving forward with this project, because it would give us a little more insight into the long-term vision of the garden itself. It is a true partnership with the society and the city. The city owns the infrastructure and the facility itself. The garden operates it, provides that vision and the programming aspect of it and the education. You know, people with accessibility challenges have a hard time navigating some of the spaces and pathway sections because of the cracking. So we want to make sure that this pathway system meets those accessibility standards and allows everybody to be able to visit and access the garden.
The work is expected to be completed by October 31st, 2026. The project will now affect the Winter Light Festival, which begins November 26th. Heidi Chavarria, Bridge City News.
Other works in the garden include removing and replacing entrance paving stones within the garden and rehabilitating affected landscape areas. And sad news out of Nashville Tuesday. Iconic songwriter, singer, and actor Dolly Parton has died. Her death comes just days after she shared on social media that she was struggling with her health. Her head of security, Brian Seaver, who is also a nephew, announced her death in a video statement on Instagram.
Dolly has lived in the light and is in the arms of Jesus, surely met by Carl, her parents, and countless others who have watched her and longed for her to meet them in the heavens. My family and I have shared a lifetime of beautiful memories with Dolly, but so have you. She has always been on your television, your record player, your CD, and on your phone playlist, becoming an extended part of your family whether you liked it or not. Our family and the team she has entrusted with her legacy will work diligently to ensure her spirit will live with us forever. Dolly was a farmer, just like her daddy. He farmed the soil, she farmed songs and happiness. Dolly called me and said she wants to rest in a beautiful bed of plush cotton because after a life wearing heavy rhinestones, she finally deserves to be comfortable and have some rest. Rest in peace, Aunt Dolly. Aunt Granny, Gigi. May God bless Dolly Parton, and may God bless you all. She will always love you.
Dolly Parton's death comes just over a year after the death of her husband of 60 years, Carl Dean. Dolly was 80 years old. The head of Scotiabank says trade tensions between Canada and the United States are manageable. Chief Executive Scott Thomas says the new U.S. tariffs affect about 5% of exports and will have a small impact on gross domestic product, but it's something they can deal with without problem. Thomas says this is the perfect time for Canada to remove interprovincial trade barriers, continue to diversify trade, while also maintaining the trade relationship with the U.S. He also says with the current trade dispute, there are opportunities around infrastructure, pipelines, and defense. Toronto Blue Jays star pitcher Dylan Cease has launched into a side hustle of sorts that allows his artistic side to shine. And the Art Gallery of Ontario is featuring a limited edition retail collection of Cease's work, a painting that served as a nod to Toronto in his first season of a 7-year contract that he signed with the Blue Jays in the winter.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty mind blowing, to come up and see the line and just see, the press, and it just feels very big in a lot of ways I wasn't expecting. So, yeah, it's incredible. I honestly would have never thought in a million years that I would be doing anything even remotely close to this. Yeah, so it was. I did just acrylics. I haven't learned how to do oil painting yet. That's next. Yeah, I just did acrylic, and then there's the guy at Blick showed me these little glass bead things, and I was like, I'll try that. I like experimenting, trying new things. And I didn't really, I didn't have any plans or anything visualized with it. I just painted. I put it down and I just did it step by step. And yeah, it's funny. I have a lot of my teammates will say, "Why don't you paint, yourself pitching and this and that?" And I'm like, you guys know I can't draw. I have to do something extremely abstract because I'm a little limited with my abilities. But I make do with what I have.
I guess you never know where a beloved hobby can lead you. And now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was up 243 to 36,957. The Dow is up 160 to 53,577. The S&P 500 was up 24 to 7,677, and the Nasdaq was up 171 to 26,151. West Texas Intermediate oil was down $3.89 to $81.12 U.S. per barrel. Natural gas was up a cent to $2.79 U.S. Gold was up $6.79 to $46.5879 U.S. an ounce, and silver was down 31 cents to $68.62 U.S. an ounce. Feed wheat is at $8.60 per bushel. Barley is at $6.18. Canola is at $17.95, and corn is at $8.05 per bushel. Live cattle are down $1.97 to $2.18.10. Feeder cattle are up 15 cents to $3.33.72. Lean hogs October contract was down 67 cents to $80.45, and the Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours and currently sits at $72.30 U.S.
Recapping one of today's top stories, Canada has clapped back against Trump's latest tariffs. The federal government has unveiled a list of nearly 900 American products that are being tariffed in retaliation for the U.S. imposing new tariffs on Canada last week. As of September 8th, Ottawa will hike the tariff on American steel and aluminum from 25% to 50%, while imposing 50% tariffs on smartphones, golf clubs, video game consoles, and other goods. There's also a 25% tariff on appliances, agricultural machinery, dairy products, and seafood. Toronto Sun columnist Brian Lilly will also give his thoughts on the Carney government's handling of retaliatory measures and whether Trump will actually follow through on his threat of renaming Lake Ontario Lake America. Stay with us for his interview coming up next. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our content, as well as our poll questions.